Hello and welcome back to Complementary Colors, a podcast about all things commercial interior design. I am joined here today by not one, not two, but three stunningly beautiful ladies. Cara Rude.
Hola.
Our one and only Ashley Killian.
Hello.
And Melissa Pribyl.
Hello there.
And again, I am Casey Key, and we're so glad that you're joining us for a very fun topic today. We're breaking it down to two things. And they're things that we as designers struggle with, as well as rage against, as well as fully embrace.
I'm like, same thing?
Oh, yeah. No, everything. We love it. We hate it. It's a toxic relationship.
With one side, there's the opposite.
I know. It's the worst. And it is DIY, fad, phase, or lifestyle.
Ooh.
Oh, I know. So we're going to get started with a very spicy question. And Ashley, I'd like to start with you.
Ooh.
Have you ever DIY'd something? And what was your greatest success project, if you have?
I have DIY'd many things. To preface, I grew up, with my parents owning rental property, watching them fix up things. And my mom, I got interior design because my mom decorated the house like yearly. She would paint every year or
dedicated.
Wallpaper every year. I mean, it was like constant.
She wallpapered every year?
Maybe not every year, but
Close to
quite
it.
often.
That's awful.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Continue.
Those 80s. 80s, baby.
Yeah,
Continue.
for sure. But I had a lot of DIY modeled for me growing up. So, but I would say my best success story was there's a handle that broke off in our shower. And I was like, I don't want to pay it for a plumber. That's expensive. So I was like, I'm going to YouTube this. And I fixed it. I went to the hardware store. I got the piece that we
You're
needed.
like the hottest thing to walk into a hardware. I'm sorry, that's not PC. But I just imagine you like doing plumbing, and I'm like, dude, that's so dope. That's good for you.
So that felt like an accomplishment because I'm like, plumbing's like, I don't know anything about plumbing. And I'm like, I got to take a shower and tired of using the other one. So like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to fix it. And it worked. And so it wasn't a horror story.
Wow.
That's good.
Cara, what about you?
I mean, I grew up in the woods, right? So tree forts.
Ooh.
But my dad was a carpenter, so I had like blocks of things, and I had like mishapped projects that I could like muddle together. But I would say the start, and I'm doing this for all the rural community members out there.
Can we
Did
get
you
a
ever?
what?
Oh yeah. Did you ever just fight with your brother and sisters about who got to go to the dump with their father?
I did not.
Because the dump in a rural area is also like the thrift shop.
It's Goodwill.
And it totally is. There's this section of like, I feel too bad to throw this away.
Someone
And
might
that's
want this.
Totally. And it was like, whatever you could fit in the van while he was
nice that people
offloading the
did that.
trash.
Yeah.
We would like,
Impressive.
oh man. Anyway, so I've painted many old chairs. There was
Very
like
cool.
a rocker swing that was like on our porch forever that I painted 1,000 colors. But I would say the biggest success would probably be either the sauna house or our residence here in Anchorage. We self-performed a lot.
Yeah, this sauna house, we got to...
Can you tell our
Please tell us
lovely
more.
audience about your
Award-winning sauna house.
It is an award-winning sauna house.
It is a 12 by 20 little structure with a sauna, like a wood-burning sauna in the middle of it. And we did have a contractor do the framing, but we did a lot of the finish work and the electrical, and it was
stained each and every piece of plywood.
Yeah, I did many times. So I would say that was a big success. It felt good.
That's awesome. And it's beautiful.
Melissa, what about you?
Well, I have to say that when I was really thinking about this question, it brought back the fact that I grew up with a father that he worked on the North Slope of Alaska. So he was in the oil field for 2 weeks at a time and home for 2 weeks at a time. And when I was really young, it was 1 week on, 1 week off. So when my dad was home, kind of like Cara, I got to fight to who gets to spend time with dad.
Right.
And dad was a creator of all wood things, similar to Cara's dad. We have very awesome fathers. So he would be out there creating things. And in his creation, there was always the leftover cutoffs, right? And the sawdust and all of these things. And so I would take all the pieces that I knew he didn't want before they went into the trash. And I would create little houses. Like I'd make a little town out of these scrap pieces and all of the don't give a little kid wood glue. Let's just say it's Elmer's glue is much better. Wood glue is not a good idea. But it was interesting. I remember making like this castle and even using sawdust to make the grass and everything like that. So it was kind of funny how it started. Yeah.
It started very young.
Mm-hmm.
I was a tacky glue girl, not an Elmer's glue. Tacky glue. That was superior to Elmer's glue.
Sticky tack.
So on that subject, what's a DIY fail?
Oh shit.
We've all done it. We've all messed
Yes.
something up. It's all ended more expensive than we thought it would. But can we go backwards and let's you give us a DIY fail?
Yeah, it's recent.
Oh no.
It was going to be your guys' Christmas present. Not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah. So
Well, now I'm sad.
I know. Like it wasn't a fail, babe. It wasn't
We'll
great.
take it.
it was a lesson to be learned, so you'll get a different version of it. So I won't
Okay.
spoil the new version that I figured out, but
Okay.
the old version, not so much. So I, for some reason, have this problem with all of the different types of trash cans we have in our office, our personal trash cans.
Oh yeah.
They're all different. They're all
Hideous.
they're ugly, right? So I've taken a couple and I've bought those like really cheap, like $2, right when like everybody's going back to college and all of the like storage stuff is on sale at Target. So this summer I bought some of these, I stole some of them, and I bought a ton of the different spray paints. And I was going to make these really cool, badass trash cans for everybody. And
I love that.
yeah, no, I did not buy the right spray paint. Two, the plastic. It was just like, okay, I bought plastic kind, but then it's
Did it flake off?
did it flake off ever? Yes.
Bubbled up. The plastic started to melt.
And I was like, God damn it. So I figured out a better way, but that was a really recent fail where I was like, I probably should have put a little more research instead of being so excited that I was going to make something cool for the office. Make everyone jealous of your trash cans.
I mean, I hope that's still happening.
it is just in a different form.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Cara,
And that form is taking longer.
Give us
It
a
was 2016 when this happened. No,
rip.
So painting, which both of them partook in painting my house. Remember that coral paint? And I was
mint
like,
wall
you guys-
stripe?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the first house, the townhouse. The house we currently live in. At one point, my oldest daughter wanted this coral color in her bedroom, and then we had some leftover paint. So I thought it would be like a dope idea to like paint their vanity. But I was too lazy to go through and like actually remove the factory finish.
Oh, the
So-
prep work. Yes.
Oh yeah. So I just paint this vanity in their bathroom, which is like probably the most hardly loved thing in a children's like life, you know? They've just, and so without
They slam it
not
when they're
wanting
angry
to like
and,
admit my failure, I think for like a year, I would go in there like on weekends and like touch up the paint. It just got ridiculous. And I was like, fuck it, fine, we're done. And then like, you know, anyway, we ended up ripping it out and like getting something else because it was just this. So yes,
Never
remove
script
the
prep
factory
work.
finish.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
not worth
good
it.
lesson.
Sand everything until you
Yeah.
think it shouldn't be sanded anymore, and then it's
See?
ready.
Sand again.
Yeah.
And then say it again. Yes.
Ashley, what's a fail?
I have it's not necessarily a fail. Well, trying to hang some blinds with my husband.
Oh no, marital bliss.
That's a test to your marriage right there.
Really? Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's our first time really installing any kind of like blinds, so it's pretty simple, you would think, but you just kind of, you got to screw in, the top, and I think it was an up-down shade too, so it had a little more to it. But he started to put it up, and it was like crooked, and was like caused this big argument, and it's like, all right, this is not fun. So I ended up just leaving it crooked because I did not want to deal with the wrath
You're
of
like,
the
do I
argument.
hesitation
do
what
I
the fail was?
Hire
I was
a marriage counselor,
the
or do
fail
I
is that I have a
leave it crooked?
I left it crooked. It was a rental too, so
Well, you're gonna take it down
there's
eventually.
that. Yeah.
There's
Oh
that
my
too.
gosh.
Okay, and Casey, I have to ask you back the first question.
Right,
Of
yeah,
what
I
was
was
your
curious
biggest
to
Oh,
success?
we're getting to it.
Okay,
we're getting
'cause-
to it.
I gotta know.
Before we continue, Ashley, you're like fading in and out. Can you
Oh,
just
okay.
can you
Yeah.
just pull the mic a little bit toward you because you're fading out in my ears, and I'm sure it's okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, no worries. It was like you're doing this. I'm like, just leave it there. Anyway,
Try to sit still.
Oh, you don't have to. It was too far away from you. That's it. Okay. So we're getting to mine. So mine is both a success and a failure. So my greatest success is my husband and I bought a used camper, and we poured time and money and love into this camper to like redo it to make it something that if anyone has ever been in a camper, you all know what it feels like. It feels gross, like you should be 75 years old, that you should be retired, and it should smell. And that's what every camper feels like. I don't care if it's a brand new one fresh off the lot. They all suck. They're awful. No woman actually designed those. They're all designed by men. And so I go in there and I have all these great ideas in my brain. I'm like, this is going to be like beautiful and comfortable, and it's going to speak, about us as a couple. And I'd say 75% of it does. And I'm very proud of it. And it was like very satisfying to turn something that felt like a 75-year-old woman who was living alone and had maybe a Chihuahua lived into something that became beautiful and a space that we both love being in. However,
how's the past few months been?
It's been fun. That's a different conversation. Sorry. I live in a camper right now, but they have been fabulous months. However, my greatest fail is the one thing I never did because I was defeated before it started, is in this camper. When you have a camper, it's all just like the same wallpaper. There's no like backsplash in the kitchen and water gets everywhere and it's gross. And so my mind was like, I know exactly what I want in there. I'm going to put this backsplash in. I've never done grout before, but I've done my research. I know it has to be a silicone-based grout because of the flex and the move of the camper. It can't be, has to be able to flex with it. Basically, you have to put it up with like a silicone, like adhesive first. You don't actually put real grout, and then you put like silicone grout on top of it.
Sounds like you did your research.
I did my research. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew the kind that I wanted. I knew that it had to be small mosaics to be able to flex appropriately. Like I did my heckin' research, y'all. Heckin', because we're a clean podcast.
I was just okay. All right.
I was going to make a joke about men and their love of wood earlier, so I contained myself. Anyway, so I did my heckin' research, and I went to Lowe's to get all these things because I was like, it's going to be cheap. I'm going to make it work. And I went there, and I'm staring at everything and like making sure that I have the stuff that I picked out and I researched. And an old man comes up and he looks me up and down. He's like, can I help you? I'm just like, oh no, like I know what I'm doing. And I was literally watching a YouTube tutorial in the aisle to double check that I was going to get the exact right thing. And he judged me so hard that I just I gave up. I doubted myself. I doubted myself and was like, I guess I don't know, because I said, no, I think I know what I'm getting. And he was like, okay, let me know when you have any issues.
Oh, the smirk look.
And I was
not
like,
helpful.
this mofo robbed me of my confidence and my research to even try, to even risk making a mistake.
So we're saying there's no tile.
There's no tile. There's no tile and it is still blank on that wall to this day. And it irks me every day. And I think about this ugly ass man every single day.
No, we're attacking his aesthetics. This is deep.
I was mad because he robbed me of my confidence.
Yeah, I get that.
And so all of this to say, we've each had our successes and our failures, and we felt empowered by DIY, and we've been furious with ourselves and frustrated at the system, whatever it is. And I wanted to add a little bit of research. While this is a fun topic, and really it's so loosey-goosey that it's hard to back it up with research, I did find some very interesting statistics.
You would find some.
I would find
you
some
of all people would.
now.
I believe in you. Let's hear them.
Well, these are statistics from 2023, and this was from the Ruby Home Luxury Real Estate, and it was a breakdown of the DIY statistics of 2020 to 2023. And it said 75% of homeowners attempt some sort of DIY project. That's pretty significant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, COVID.
Yeah. Right. We all had time.
That was a huge contributing factor to more people are trying it now because they had time.
And they want to improve their home.
Home had to become a safe place. 62% of Americans say a top reason for attempting a DIY project is to save money. Thank you, inflation. And we're also grateful. 80% of people attempting DIY projects make mistakes, and 45% of DIYers report that they have completely butchered a DIY project.
It's called the idiot tax.
Which then you're like, is it really cheaper? No, who knows? 43% of DIYers use YouTube as a source of information. As I was standing in Lowe's staring at my YouTube video.
That's plumbing video.
Plumbing support. I'm sorry if you have to work on anything on your cars or any.
Yes.
Thank you.
And home interior projects are the most popular, performed by 31% of homeowners. And American DIYers specifically typically have spent $2,000 to $5,000 on their largest DIY projects.
That's a big chunk of money.
It is, which is a lot of faith in yourself. And that's anything from interiors to gardens to whatever it is. So those are some very broad things. And as I'm sitting there reading these statistics, outside of like, humans have always been DIYers. We've always been creators. That's unique to our species in a lot of ways. I thought to myself, when did the first DIY concept even come across? And when was the first like how-to manual of like, you keep it simple, stupid, like sort of manuals. And it was actually in 1683 /
What?
Of course, it's like some crazy early number.
I know. But what's funny, it was in the afterglow of the Renaissance. So the Renaissance man, which we're going to define that first before we get into the actual like book.
What is the Renaissance man?
The definition from the Encyclopedia Britannica.
The
Renaissance man. I know.
Garrett Bertner.
Amen, amen, amen. A lovely architect from our firm.
We
For those
love
who,
him.
I know he's a great guy. So, Renaissance man for the average schmo is someone who can do a lot of different things. Maybe not well, but he can do a lot of things. But from the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Renaissance man is an ideal that developed in the Renaissance Italy from the notion expressed by one of the most accomplished representatives, Leon Battista Alberti, and a man who can do all things if he will, is what he is quoted for saying. So the ideal embodied the basic tenets of the Renaissance, which was based off of humanism, meaning that men are able to do all things, essentially. And it considered him the center of the universe, limitless in his capacities for development, and led to the notion that men should try to embrace all knowledge and develop their own capacities as fully as possible. So
Is that like the modern day jack of all trades?
That's what I was
that is
thinking.
exactly where it comes from. It is that jack of all trades comes from the Renaissance
Nice.
man. So this first DIY book, published by, let me make sure I get his name right, Joseph Maxim, in England. It was published in 1683, which the Renaissance was officially over per historians in 1650. So again, in the afterglow. And he wrote how to blacksmith, cast metal, draw, do joinery with wood, engrave, print books, make maps, and mathematical instruments.
Ooh.
Meaning like sextants and whatnot.
Nice.
And
It's like how to be a real man.
yeah.
I'm just like, here.
and he was like, here, if you
And
want
I
to be
mean that
helpful.
not in a sexual term. I mean that like man or woman. How to be a human. Okay.
It was
Just to clarify.
if you want to be a beneficial part of society.
You better know how to do some welding. Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, which is so funny to me. The next DIY book that was most commonly circulated was by, I'm going to murder her name because she was Scottish, poor thing, Mary Gascoigne. Something.
I think you did good.
We'll just call Mary. Good old Mary. So, which she published a book in 1842, which is shocking.
Mary.
I know, shocking that a woman.
Wait, she was allowed to publish a book?
I know, right?
Hey, Jane
Her and her
Austen
husband.
was the first female author, and she
Okay,
was
all
in 1810, 18 teens.
That's right. We could write. We just couldn't own things.
Exactly.
Continue.
But she, I love this quote from her. She said, "Why should not our fair countrywomen participate in this amusement? Do they fear it's too masculine or laborious for the female hand? If so, that anxiety is easily removed."
I love Mary.
She's a gem. I love her. So basically,
You're a gem. That was great.
she empowered women to be able to do things like wood turning. She was an advocate for women to use
love
lathes.
a lathe.
And, yeah,
It's dangerous, too.
It is. It was a very
It's so
masculine trait.
therapeutic.
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
like pottery on the other,
Like
Yes, I
women
know.
were supposed to be accomplished, but she was advocating for them to be accomplished in masculine arts, such
love
as
it.
woodworking. So again, a pioneer DIYer. And the last DIY pioneer that I think we'll all probably roll our eyes at, but I found it very amusing. It was the first quote unquote HGTV special, which was in 1962, I
Oh,
believe.
wait a minute. Do we have a guess on what this is?
Are you ready?
No, I just
I don't
didn't
have a
know.
guess.
Is
Do
it
you?
Extreme Home Makeover?
I mean, no, it's not. That it should be. It was actually a gentleman, and it was basically every single week. He would show you something different and DIY that he was doing in his flat, his Victorian flat in the west side of London. And people across nations tuned in to see. His name was Barney Bucknell. Excuse me.
Barney
Okay,
Bucknell.
I
Barney
would tune in
Bucknell.
just because of that
Barney
name.
I know,
Bucknell.
Barney Bucknell. And he had the first DIY TV show.
Okay.
And
He's like the Bob Ross of
Yeah,
our
I was gonna
industry.
say Bob
Sometimes.
Vila.
I was like, would he
This
do
Old
like
Home?
just happy
This Old
little?
Home.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, not the same, not the
Today.
same hair.
Today
But
we're going to be taking on this plumbing.
happy trees, it
Happy-
cannot be topped. Okay, but if he was like happy tapestry,
Sad clouds.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
did he happy tapestry?
You know, I've tried to watch one of his videos, but I wasn't able. It's like only
dry?
Too
Too old.
for you.
well, it wouldn't let me. Too grainy for me, please. I am an old woman. So I that was very amused by that. So that leads
Okay.
into our opinion that I want to get from all of you guys. Pinterest/HGTV, harmful and unrealistic, or is it empowering and helpful?
I think it's both. It's I hate it when I go neutral because all you guys are always so neutral. I'm like, no, black and white over
Switzerland.
here. No, but it is unrealistic. But because it's unrealistic, it gives people this beautiful false hope to actually start. And that's awesome.
Yeah, confidence.
They would not start and be empowered unless it was so unrealistic that they were like, oh, that will change my life. And so I think it helps. I do want to give a shout out to, and it is actually an Instagram account, but Something Renewed. Just put
Something
it,
renewed.
Something Renewed, just in like a period between those two words.
Something renewed.
She's incredible. And so that is what I call like realistic and step by step and very helpful. But even the ones where it's like, we designed and built your whole house in 24 hours. And
Unrealistic.
now we
Extreme
will
home
move
makeover.
this huge van and your whole
Sure, it was
dreams have come
24
true.
hours, yeah.
Right. And you're just like, yo, but
And this was only $5,000.
but again, it gives people that hope to start.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I also have to, because HGTV and Pinterest, they don't have the realistic price tags, whether it's being done by professional or DIY. There is some
Sponsorship.
I would say, yeah, there's a lot of free stuff
Good
going on
point.
there.
Yeah.
But I have to say that the Instagram influencers that I follow too, they're amazing at instilling confidence in women specifically to pick up that power tool and to not, diminish their hopes by those that work at Home Depot, to just
Bless
go
their
for
hearts.
it, and that you're learning by experimenting and you're learning by almost making mistakes so that you know how to do it better.
Yeah.
So it's more realistic of like, hey, let me tell you what I did wrong first and then show you what I did right. So I think that the confidence of those influencers to be able to share what happened that was wrong is so awesome of them to be just realistic and be like, hey, this is real life.
Ashley, what about you?
Everybody kind of took what I was
Well,
going
then
to say.
reiterate it.
Yeah. So I think, HGTV, my mom loved it, grew up
on
it.
all the
It's-
time.
With her and her wallpaper.
Yeah, right. I think it's good, again, to get that initial idea. It's cool to see the before and after. That's fun. But you don't get the realistic timeline. You don't get the realistic budget. All the fails that happen along the way. So there's so much that's missing, and they produce these beautiful renderings, and it's like, do
You're
know how
like,
much it
you
takes to
didn't
do
make
it?"
that,
Yeah.
Joanna.
Like, oh, this is easy. Let me just show you. This is what it's going to be.
Curious.
I do like the one lady on HTV that does watercolor. She paints the facade of this old town.
It's been a minute then.
It's cute.
I didn't even know she
just
existed.
she paints the facade
That's
of
sweet.
watercolor. This is what your house could look like.
Yeah, but again, you're like, how long did that take you?
Right. Yeah. It's
True that.
edited. It's very edited process. So
Sure.
there's that.
It's entertainment.
It is. Yeah. That's right. Competent. And I don't feel like they go in the detail of explaining, like, our profession, interior designers, we go through schooling, we go through, code studies and certifications. And I think that's highly discounted on HGTV. You don't get that. Even with the DIYers, I first learned about like the Instagram DIYers through my husband's cousin's wife. And so she's actually a DIYer, and I started following her. I'm like, she makes really cool videos. Like Melissa said, it's awesome to see the process, the empowerment, circling back on what you said. I agree with all that. It's like, okay, you know what? I want to get a circular saw and start, cutting my own wood. I did learn that in like art fundamentals. We had to do the woodworking, but it's like I've forgotten all that. But just had that reminder of that empowerment that we can do this too. And then again, showing that process, the start to finish. Okay, well, this didn't go how I thought it was going to go, and I had to go back and do this step. And a quick documentation of all that is kind of cool to see. Like, this is what's realistic.
Yeah,
absolutely. Which it leads into kind of we've touched on cost. We've touched on like, are you learning a new skill? And I'm going to ask you guys a quick question about like, is it really cheaper? But I'm going to preface it with a hilarious quote that I just had to share. And it's from an article by Lauren Torres, and she has a blog called Bitches Get Riches, which made me laugh.
I need to follow
Awesome
this
name.
I know. And so she wrote an article about the 5 lies of DIYing and that she's seriously sick of hearing. And in quotation marks, she says, "These cute napkins only cost $2 to make. I just ran them through on my $200 sewing machine. So easy."
The tools you have.
Exactly. And so it was one of those things like, you have this disillusionment when you realize that you don't own a circular saw, you don't have a jigsaw, you don't have a sewing machine, you don't
have the space to set up a wood shop.
you don't have the funds to be able to do this. And I'm like, I think that's one thing that, what do you think is the greatest impediment to DIYing? It's the cost. It's the setup.
It's the tools.
Like any hobby.
Oh yeah.
Hobbies are expensive.
Yeah, but you could have DIY as a hobby. Right?
Absolutely.
So I have to, like, looking at my husband, one of his hobbies woodworking, right? So I get to benefit from that tool set, literally.
Absolutely.
To do some of the DIY that I repurpose things. So it's like, oh, husband's out of town. I want to organize my art room. I can cut these shelves and hang them myself. Absolutely, because there's tools in the garage that I can do that with. So I'm lucky that I get to benefit from someone else's hobby. But yeah, starting a project, even with empowerments, like, oh, a circular saw, that costs a pretty penny.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, I would say there's a duality with DIYing and finding out when it's worth it. Obviously, cost and time. I know that most people in our country either have a job or have children, or if not both of those things. And so who really has time for it? So I think that you kind of have to like gauge what is worth it to you. And I think that's a huge balance. It takes people time to learn, and sometimes not until the middle of a project. Cara, when you were talking about your, your daughter's dresser.
Right. But then I was just thinking, like, the kids, and I'm shocked they have memory this young. They remember when we were wiring the electrical in the sauna house because I just set them loose, like,
You gave them free reign?
Well, no, they were just walking around and I was like, see all this sawdust? I'm like, put it in this pan in this bag. And they were like, remember, we were the first ones to clean the sauna house.
Aww.
And like, they have these like weird memories. And so I guess I would say, like, depending on your comfort level for how much you involve your children, you know, like, I was around, wood shop growing up. Like, I knew not to stick my hand in the planer.
You learn the safety.
Right. But I would just say you can do both if you're willing to like skirt a line of safety. That's not good advice.
I mean, but there's you glean so much emotional like memories from that. So that was the payoff of sitting for hours on end doing your own wiring. We are kind of running out of time. I don't want to take everyone's day. However, we do have our second part of our topic, and I just want to lightly touch on this. And this is something that we'll parse through in other episodes and whatnot. But topic 2 is kind of covering where these DIY desires might come from. And that's kind of finding maybe the impossible piece that you can never find that's quite you, or making a dream design become cost effective. However, the question I have for you is, how do we develop, find, or cultivate a personal style enough to know when DIYing is worth it? And so the final topic in a nutshell is exploring your own design. How would you get into it? So when did you feel like, Melissa, you had a style in your home or life? And can you personally tell when you feel like something is you? What does that feel like?
It feels like a cozy hug. If I know that fits, it's just warm and it's inviting. That doesn't mean that my style is a cozy hug, but that's how it reminds me of like, oh, that's going to fit perfectly somewhere. I'm going to make this work. But it's also kind of a blend between who I was as a single individual and who I am now as a married couple, and trying to figure out where I'll even call it my brand, from being a homeowner as a single woman to now married, and having a co-brand with somebody else, and figuring out what together would make us feel like it's a hug for both of us. I think that was like the biggest challenge that I had, blending two styles that were kind of quite different. Not gonna lie, but that's my job, right? That's what that's
every
challenge
couple.
accepted. But I think that we've done a really good job blending what we like to do, and we've done a lot of DIYs, from shelving, simple shelving, to headboards, to nightstands, to TV stands, to desks. My husband's definitely jack of all trades.
A Renaissance man, if you will.
Renaissance man.
Ashley, what about you?
Question.
When did you feel like you had a style in your home or life? And then how do you define that? How do you know when that is yours? Like, what does that feel like?
Well, again, going back to my mother growing up, she was just always, cultivated that kind of self-expression within decorations of the house. I had this bedspread in like elementary school, middle school, that was like Waverly, like expensive fabric, all custom, and the draperies.
Bougie.
Bougie. Super bougie because of mom. But, I look back, I'm like, oh, it's so floral. But, just kind of finding that, like, what do I like? What do I enjoy? And Melissa, you brought up a great point of now coming from that. Well, seeing my mom do what she wanted, my dad really didn't ever have any input.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, well, now I'm trying to,
Co-create.
That's a great word. And kind of make this, a space that everybody can enjoy, not just me, but I am also the one who has a lot of background in this.
Isn't that so hard?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I know you're the professional in this segment, but I'm the professional in this segment.
Right. But you want to take into account the feelings and the personalities and the preferences in your home. So,
And Cara, what about you? I'm curious.
Are you though? I feel
I'm
like
also
everyone here
curious.
knows. Like,
No, I want to know
I'm
when
the
you-
minimalist. I'm like the redactor of redactors.
But when did you feel like you first had a style? Was it when you were 5-year-olds and like, I want nothing to do with anything but this stick? Like, I want to know.
Because I've also seen your evolution of the mint stripe
Totally.
and your ombre.
Well, I mean, what in
bedroom
my
wall.
life isn't like an emotional response
I
to
know,
where I'm
and
at.
I loved
So,
it.
But
hence
that's a style.
The mint stripe with
The
the
mint
like,
stripe. My dad's ladder.
Oh my gosh. All that to say, I would say now though, I would say now in retrospect, it was always like redaction and minimalism to just those few things that either reminded me of travel or reminded me of something that was like a core value.
And was that early or was that?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's always been the case. And I think it's because I had people in my life I looked up to that were that way. Like I had an aunt that like only ever had 5 shirts and 5 pairs of pants. And if she got one, she got rid of it, you know? Wow. And so I was just like, what? You know? So I think that's always kind of been in the like back of my mind, like not to find comfort in excess, but to like just have enough. But then it's like looking around my house when I saw, you know, your question today, I was like, I also have like this like dash of like naturalism and bohemian, you know, I might not have a lot of things, but the things I have, like, you know, I just saw these sandstone rocks from like Zion or like, so I'll have like, it's the most random thing, you know, but it's like the one thing.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So we're going to wrap up with a universal question, because I always have to ask, like, if you just kind of put something out to the universe and it would just be known or accepted or whatever. So we have to finish with that. So based off of this, each one of you has found your own personal style in different ways. And you found when it matters to you to DIY, whether it be emotional, whether it be cost effective, whether it be to blend your households. So the question is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's on the cusp of discovering their hidden style or who wants to try their first DIY project? Ashley, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say get familiar with failure.
Ooh.
And multiple
and
trips.
Podcast is over. Thank you.
Yeah.
For joining us.
You're going to Lowe's every hour.
That was my other thing, is you will visit the hardware store multiple times in a day.
Not just a weekend, a day.
Right, in a day.
There's knowledge in play, you know, and I think it's the best self-discovery in my opinion. So, you know, carpe the diem.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Seize the day, DIYers.
Seize the day.
What about you, Melissa?
I'd say to make your own trend. I know that there's a lot of trends out there, like the whole gray wash everything 2020. And to just do what feels good to you. That's not necessarily blasted over social media or Pinterest or HGTV. There's a reason why you're drawn to something individually. So find that and do not be afraid to run with it.
I don't think I can top any of those. Those are all beautiful. Ladies, I appreciate.
How about you renovate a camper and live in it for a year?
I mean,
there you
yeah,
go.
You
that's
guys
great.
challenge.
Coming to a town near you is
Yes.
Casey and her camper.
Yeah.
Exploring design.
With 4 fur babies.
I do. The 2 cats and the 2 dogs. That's a lot to accommodate when you're in a camper. So finding a secret like kitty litter department.
Exactly.
Because
Get
you
creative.
You don't want your kitty litter to be out in the middle of the camper. You don't want to smell that. So it's like tucked away. So
nice,
that was fun. Yeah. Anyway, but
There's a solution to everything.
there always is, whether it be DIY or purchased or professionals' advice. I think you have to find what suits you, what works for your needs and your budget. And ladies, I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing some of your failures as well as some of your style points. And we look forward to you all joining us next time on Complementary Colors. And so long.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
Complementary Colors is a production of MCG Explore Design, an architecture and interior design firm located in beautiful Anchorage, Alaska. If you'd like to hear more future episodes, be sure to subscribe to Complementary Colors wherever you find podcasts.